Hello there, this is All 24 News World News Program broadcast to you live from Algiers, and up next are the top stories. A ceasefire agreement reached after 15 months of Zionist war on Gaza. Hamas affirms a positive approach to the ceasefire proposal and collaborates with the Islamic Jihad movement for the success of the deal. The Zionist war on Gaza continues, leaving 38 martyrs in raids across the Strip since dawn. Also in our news, the Algerian news agency affirms that France's claims of aid to Algeria are delusional, and Algiers is not dependent on Paris. And Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov stresses that the solution to the Western Sahara conflict must be based on self-determination. Hello again and welcome back to the program. Qatari media, citing foreign ministry sources, reported a ceasefire and a prisoner exchange deal. It is expected to take effect starting next Sunday. Nearly 2,000 Palestinian prisoners, including 250 serving life sentences and 1,000 detained since October 7th, will be released alongside 33 Zionist prisoners in the first phase. The agreement includes phased Zionist withdrawals to 700 meters from Gaza's border, reductions along the Philadelphia axis, and eventual withdrawal from Netzarim. It also involves the return of Palestinians to northern Gaza under Egyptian and Qatari oversight, reopening the Rafah crossing after 7 days, and evacuating the wounded abroad for treatment.
It gives us great pleasure in Qatar, Egypt, and the United States to announce the success of the joint mediation efforts and the fact that the two belligerents in the Gaza Strip have reached a deal on the prisoner and the hostage swap and announce a ceasefire in the hopes of reaching a permanent ceasefire between the two sides, as well as allowing the access of large quantities of relief aid to the Palestinian brothers in the Gaza Strip.
The Islamic resistance movement, Hamas, stated that it delivered its response to the ceasefire proposal to mediators on Wednesday evening. In a statement, Hamas explained that its political bureau held an emergency meeting to discuss the proposal, emphasizing that it responded responsibly and positively in order to stop the Zionist aggression and the end of massacres in Gaza Strip. Hamas confirmed that its leadership, led by Mohammed Darwish, met with an Islamic Jihad delegation headed by Ziad Nakhala on Wednesday evening. The meeting focused on the progress of ceasefire negotiations. Hamas highlighted the steadfastness of the Palestinian people, the bravery of the resistance, and their role in supporting the negotiations to end the war and aggression against Palestinians. Joy and happiness spread across several cities in the Gaza Strip as news spread of a deal that could restore life to the region and end to the brutal war of extermination. More on this story with Marwa Blahor.
It's the armistice. After living more than 15 months under the Zionist criminal genocidal war, killing, bombardment, and piles of rubble that collapsed on the hand of Palestinian civilians, time has eventually come for the Palestinian people to live the long-awaited peace.
By God, we are very happy that this crisis, sadness, bombing, and death that happened to us is finally over, and that we will return to our hometowns and return to our families in Beit Hanun, Gaza, and the north, and see our families who remained alive and return to our old lives and be happy and live like we used to.
The Hamas resistance group has reached a ceasefire agreement on Wednesday, putting an end to the Palestinian suffering and allowing humanitarian aid to reach people who are in desperate need. The ceasefire brokered by Qatari and Egyptian mediators includes a hostage and prisoner exchange deal, and according to the latest reports, the agreement also outlines the stages in which the ceasefire agreement will be implemented. According to the Qatari Prime Minister, the agreement defines a prolonged truce that paves the way for a permanent ceasefire between the two sides.
The greatest joy is to see my brothers who left and my family who left, whom I have not seen for more than a year and have not been reassured about, and whose news have been lost, and to return to our home, to live in our neighborhood, to live with our neighbors among our loved ones. And God willing, God will make it happen.
It all depends.
The agreement also allows the funneling of large amounts of humanitarian relief and aid to the Palestinian population in the Gaza Strip. All Palestinian people could never be happier than today. Men, women, children and the elderly have taken to the streets of the Gaza Strip and the West Bank to express their relief and happiness with a permanent pause of hostilities that claimed tens of thousands of lives and caused widespread destruction and extensive damage.
Ya Allah, Ya Allah, Ya Allah.
Palestinian Prime Minister Mohammed Mustafa emphasized that while a ceasefire in Gaza is necessary, but it is not enough given the ongoing tragedies caused by the Zionist occupation. In a press conference after meeting with EU leaders in Oslo, Mustafa reiterated Palestine's commitment to working with Norway and global partners to help the Palestinian people. He called for decisive action to establish a two-state solution and end to the Israeli occupation.
Recognition, accountability. We are pleased with the news about possible pause of hostilities in Gaza, but we see this as a necessary but not enough step in that regard. As you know, hundreds of thousands of Palestinians in Gaza are going through a very difficult time from humanitarian perspective, from shelter perspective, from infrastructure perspective, from all kind of livelihood is being affected by the war, and we obviously want to work together with Norway and other partners around the world to ensure that we can help our people get out of this very complex, very difficult situation.
Since dawn on Wednesday, 38 Palestinians have been killed and dozens more injured due to the ongoing Zionist bombings across Gaza Strip. In the last 24 hours, medical sources reported that 63 Palestinians were killed from intensive Zionist raids on multiple areas. This escalation coincides with heavy fire belts carried out by Zionist warplanes targeting all areas of Gaza. And to talk more about this, we're joined live from Gaza by Iyad Abu Musa, member of Engineering Association Operations in the south of Gaza. Thank you, sir, for agreeing to be with us.
Yeah, you are welcome. You are welcome, and thank you for hosting me. Yeah.
And from the United States, Dr. Hamoud Salhi, Associate Dean Professor of International Studies, California State University, Los Angeles. Thank you for accepting our invite, sir.
My pleasure, Islam. Congratulations, and it's so pleasure meeting you, your guest from Deir al-Balah.
So let me start with you, Dr. Iyad Abu Musa. The long-awaited ceasefire has finally been reached after 15 months of killing, destruction, and misery. So how is the ceasefire perceived by the Palestinians in general and the people in Gaza in more particular? And do you think that the ceasefire will hold?
Firstly, greetings to you and to your guests. Really here, the ceasefire words we have in our dreams for more than 15 months. Maybe the ceasefire is deeply want and need. Its essence matter and life matter. It's not just a word. Here our Gazans linked it as a hope for life. It's maybe our emotions have our mix between sadness and happiness. A lot of time we link between hope and an inability to express about our emotions. Our people is still suffering. When I speak to you now, we under the huge bombing from the Israeli air forces. They targeted tents and a lot of martyrs now at this moment in Deir al-Balah, and multiple seriously injured. Just a moment when I talk to you. These mixed emotions stem from the overwhelming forces used against us. You can imagine when you especially forced to displace more than multiple times and under the huge rockets and bombings still targeting us and civilians, it's horrible. So the implementation of the ceasefires, we think that the implementations is tied to the mediators, especially the United States. If they hope to pass it, they will force the Israel to stop their genocide and machine of killing. Really, our mixed emotions is still mixing, especially when the celebrating photos and videos is spreading to the all of the world. The Israelis is still targeting us and intensifying the bombing, especially in the Gaza town and in the north.
So let me include you, Dr. Hamoud Salhi, on this. What can you tell us about the timing of concluding this agreement? We all know that the negotiations under Qatari mediation have been taking place for all the period of the Zionist aggression against Gaza without reaching a substantial, let's say, breakthrough. So what was behind its conclusion today specifically?
Well, the obvious one, Islam, is the fact that this is evidence, huge evidence in support or of the resiliency of the Palestinian resistance. So what the resilience, the fight, the struggle that the Palestinians have led in the past how many days and months that led to over 56,000 killed and martyred and over 100 injuries, that is what drives us to here. And more than anything else, when you look at the demands of the Palestinian resistance, they are the same thing and that they ask that they had before. So it is again the fight, the standing by the principle, the realization that this entity, the Zionist, cannot be trusted. And therefore, they had to rely or get guarantees. So those are two things that are very important to consider. So we did not get here by surprise, or just suddenly the Israelis gave up to this because of the what is going on to them. Straightforward in terms of answering this. I mean, a lot of things has to do with the timing. A week before the new term, Biden has come out and attribute this to his team, arguing that the agreement is the same one as the one that they had in May, they proposed in May. But the fact remains that it was May last year, and we are January another year, and the Biden administration could not deliver. What delivered it, and history will tell us, and we'll know later on, is perhaps the Trump administration, the fact that the Trump representative was at the table, and the Trump administration appears to want this to end, and they told us to want to end. We've seen sort of a clarity from this administration, from the Trump administration, I should say, where Trump threatened that if they don't achieve ceasefire, there will be hell. Not his turn, but that's what ended up doing. In fact, he was suggesting that he was aiming at the Palestinians. But in reality, Trump also had sort of criticized Netanyahu by saying or supporting a video that basically suggests, or in which it is stated,
sorry, Dr. Hamoud Salhi,
that
for
Netanyahu wants to
interrupting.
drive the United States to war.
President-elect Donald Trump promised to end the war in Gaza if elected. Does this mean that the influence of Trump administration has on the Zionist entity and its decision makers, let's say, is beyond imagination? Dr. Hamoud Salhi?
Oh, no.
Since we were speaking about Trump.
Oh, so Islam, I think, and it's very, well, I'm sort of having difficulty giving you a right, straightforward answer for obvious reason. When we look at the record of Trump, for example, the record of Trump is that, you know, he's the first one who pushed for normalization. He's the first one who recognized the sovereignty of Israel over the Golan Heights. So he has a record that is sort of pro-Israel. The people he appointed are also pro-Israel, hawkish, and so on and so forth. But at the end, I think what's happened is that, and again, it's because of the Palestinian resistance, the newly elected president has to face the realization, and he's a bit realistic in a sense, that a war cannot go on. And whether he has received deals from the right extremists, whether he made deals about settlements, all of that. But the reality is that the war has caused a lot of problem for the United States. The United States is very isolated. And Trump, with all the battles that he had to do, he has to sort of come in and take this initiative, if it's his, put pressure on the Israelis to accept the deal, Netanyahu in particular, doing it also to claim that it was because of his efforts that we have peace in Israel. And more than anything else, try to sort of rebuild the United States image.
So we're running out of time. Thank you so much. I'll go back to you shortly, Dr. Hamoud Salhi. Let's say I turn to you again, Dr. Iyad Abu Musa. So the occupation's attacks against civilians in Gaza continue despite the announcement of the ceasefire. Are we going to see the same scenario that happened and is still happening actually in Lebanon? I mean, the repeated violations of the ceasefire by the occupation forces. Let's say, in another word, what are the potential challenges to maintain the terms of this agreement in the Strip?
Firstly, you can imagine the Israeli is forced to announce the agreement before sometimes. The intensifying killing and continuing the genocide, it's a way that we still work. The samples that repeated on all over the past wars, these actions Israeli needs to immense the killing, because they, in their thoughts, they need to let Palestinian overwhelming and give up and stop the celebrating. In our thoughts, the Israeli have some actions when intensifying against our celebrations, because they still think the resistance and our resilience must stop. Netanyahu haven't any actions and haven't any way, just all of the world impose him, because this actions is increasing the pressure over the Israeli in the world. We think that here in the Gaza. Before a while, the imposing sanctions over the Israeli is a joke and a joy here in the Palestinian and the Gazans especially. Because we think the increasing pressure just from our stance and our resistance and the stance with the free people in all of the world that support our freedom in Palestine and Gaza.
So I would like to thank our guests, Mr. Iyad Abu Musa and Dr. Hamoud Salhi, for their valuable time and their insights and standpoints on this pivotal moment for the Gaza Strip.
Thank you, Islam.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, our program continues shortly. Right now, the Zionist occupation forces conducted a major bombing operation in Ait al-Shab, southern Lebanon, targeting neighborhoods overlooking Ramish, according to local media. Lebanese National News Agency reported on Wednesday that these actions violate the ceasefire agreement, reached last November. The occupation continues to carry out systematic bombings on homes in the Binjbil district and surrounding areas. Moving on to Syria now, media outlets in Syria reported that 3 people, including civilians, were killed in a Zionist airstrike on Wednesday, targeting a general security force in southern Qanitra. Sources added that a Zionist occupation drone struck a convoy of the Military Operations Department in Ghadir al-Bustan, south of Qanitra. Following the bombing, the area went on high alert as occupation aircraft flew intensively overhead. To a different matter now, the Algerian news agency dismissed French allegations of alleged development aid to Algeria, stating that these claims exist only in France's imagination. The agency criticized the French far right for spreading misleading statements, including proposals for sanctions aimed at pressuring Algeria. Usama Yadi reports.
The French far right has been thrust into confusion, particularly whenever Algeria is mentioned in its discourse. This confusion has led to a systematic campaign pushing misleading ideas within the French government. One of these ideas includes allegations of French development aid to Algeria, which the right wing in France argue that it is a pressure tactic forcing Algeria to reconsider its positions. The Algerian news agency has strongly refuted these allegations, arguing that the so-called aid does not exist. APS pointed out that the alleged aid formula mirrors the situation from 1994 when France threatened to cut aid.
This alleged assistance only existed in the imagination of France, which deludes itself to thinking that Algeria is perpetually dependent on it, while in reality it concerns supply loans that helped French companies maintain their market share in Algeria. In truth, there is no French public assistance for Algeria's development in the commonly understood sense. It is a misleading act intended to present an image of France respecting its international commitments. It is also a disgraceful trick aimed at promoting an image of Algeria receiving French aid that is supposedly indispensable. Additionally, there is a misuse of language to cover up a campaign of attempts to thwart Algeria's determined journey towards achieving its renaissance.
APS called it a misleading narrative designed to portray France as fulfilling international obligations. According to the agency, the claims were designed to mislead with the true aim of promoting an image of Algeria's dependency on France. The APS denied any impact on the Algerian economy.
There is no French aid for the development of Algeria. This aid does not exist at all. In the Algerian economy, we find French exports valued at $3.2 billion in 2023. We also find investments amounting to a total of $2.5 billion, which is far from the size of investments from Algeria's major foreign investors. In the Algerian economy, there is also excessive benefit from Algerian public contracts worth billions of dollars, which has allowed many French companies to emerge and even saved some of the most prominent ones from bankruptcy.
In conclusion, the Algerian news agency emphasized that the narrative of French aid is a mechanism for transferring money from Algeria back to France for its benefit. This narrative is designed to create a misleading image of Algeria's subordination, an image that no longer aligns with the reality of Algeria's sovereignty.
Salma Bakhta Mansouri, the Algerian Secretary of State to the Foreign Minister for African Affairs, was received by South Sudanese President Salva Kiir during her visit as a special envoy of President Abdelmadjid Tebboune. Mansouri delivered a written message from President Tebboune reaffirming Algeria's commitment to strengthening bilateral cooperation and supporting security and development in South Sudan. President Kiir expressed gratitude for the visit, highlighting the deep friendship between the two countries and Algeria's ongoing support for South Sudan. The meeting also provided an opportunity to discuss ways to enhance cooperation across various fields. Algerian Health Minister Abdelhak Saihi was received by President Felix Tshisekedi in Kinshasa on Tuesday during his visit as a special envoy of President Abdelmadjid Tebboune. Saihi delivered a message from President of the Republic Tebboune, emphasizing the shared commitment to strengthen cooperation and address regional challenges. He also conveyed President Tebboune's fraternal greetings to Tshisekedi. The latter praised Algeria's role in strengthening African solidarity and supporting development, peace, and independence across the continent. President Abdelmadjid Tebboune met with directors of Algerian public and private media institutions on Wednesday to address their concerns and proposals for the sector improvements. He also extended New Year wishes to all media professionals, both in Algeria and abroad. The meeting was attended by the director of the Presidency Office, the Minister of Communication, the President's advisor on communication, and the Presidency spokesperson. The Secretary General of the Algerian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Lounes Magraman, met with Yang Wenming, President of the Chinese People's Association for Friendship and with Foreign Countries, during his official visit to Algeria from January 13 to 15, 2025. The meeting focused on strengthening the partnership, friendship, and solidarity between the two countries, particularly in the economic and cultural sectors, in line with the outcomes of President Tebboune's state visit to China in July 2023. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov emphasized that the solution to Western Sahara conflict must be based on principle of self-determination and the will of the Sahara people, in line with the United Nations resolutions and regulations. During a press conference in Moscow, where he outlined Russia's diplomatic results for 2024, Lavrov reiterated the importance of adhering to the UN Security Council resolutions regarding the Western Sahara cause.
The UN Security Council decided a long time ago, some 40 years ago, that the problem of the Western Sahara issue should be resolved through the self-determination of the people of Western Sahara.
That's the end of our news program for tonight. For more updates, you can always check our social media platforms. Thank you for watching. Good night.